A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to some more of the Vlog-A-Thon 5.0. And what we're going to do specifically is simply talk a bit more about my content. There's definitely been a lot of material that I have personally left out. There's just been times where I've kickstarted projects. A lot of times I certainly have had some good ideas. Many of them just don't seem to pan out well. As I've said before with Nerf Secrets Revealed, for example, I had to take out a lot of episodes. But someday I will come back with those episodes remade and done more professionally compared to when I first did Nerf Secrets Revealed as a whole, especially between 2013 and 2017. But maybe the biggest thing that I will have to talk about is just the fact that in addition to parts of content of mine that I've been having for a long time that have had to be scrapped or simply taken out of commission before I had the chance to release them, it's probably just the fact that I've had other series on this channel. Take, for example, Survival of No Limits. This is pretty much the latest ever instance that I've even referred to that series. A wannabe survival series that talks specifically about the many dangers of life and how you can potentially avoid certain things that could ever happen. I've talked a lot about my personal self in terms of how I've been fazed by life as is, attacked by animals, punching through glass, having injuries of any sorts. It's been rather abundant. Even here in more recent times, I've definitely gotten a hold of injuries left and right, mostly work related. But that's just the thing about it. You work hard, and there's times where you might end up in some sort of accident, and it could be nasty. Survival of No Limits, on the other hand, was certainly a short-lived series that ran throughout the entirety of 2021, between January and December of 2021. So it's safe to say that almost a year's passed since that happened, and well, I guess I just never had the interest in starting another season. I've never had the opportunity to have some more time to piece stuff together, and I've definitely never once had the heart to continue going, especially when I've practically exhausted every possible opportunity down the line. It just makes me feel as bad to say that there's been some instances where I never would have imagined that someday I could ever talk about this stuff again. If I ever had to talk about this stuff ever again, it would just mostly be about me simply going on and on about why it was bad, why it didn't work for me, and why it never panned out well. But here is where I can probably look back on that, because it honestly was a good idea. After all the nice survival shows that we've seen, especially Man vs. Wild, for instance, or Legend of Jimmy Dodge, or Duck Dynasty, for example. I mean, there's definitely been a ton of this sort of stuff and whatnot that's been based on wildlife and understanding the environment around you and how you can cope with certain things if you're ever exploring the wilderness. There's definitely been a lot of documentaries over the years that depict certain things that do happen out there in real life, regardless of the environment, the weather, the conditions, the season that you're in, or part of the world. It just seems that nowadays we're definitely bound to get into some pretty big trouble. And Survival of No Limits was my way of getting together and simply going up to the camera to be able to talk about how I personally feel about certain things regarding the dangers of life, from animals to chemicals to accidents that happen because of human-related disasters, the depictions of history as is, and then of course talking about my own personal stories about how I've gotten myself a good majority of different things. The cuts, bruises, scars on my body have shown how many times I've ever come into contact with anything that's sharp, blunt, or have any sort of effect on me. It could burn me, it could singe me, it could melt me. Anything can and will happen nowadays. So it pretty much just boils down to what kind of idea can I possibly come up with next. If I ever wanted to start, let's say, another season of this series, it would not be very easy to do so. I feel like a better idea, though, that I'm probably getting at the moment just because I'm now talking about this again, could probably be an expansion. Kind of like what's been going on with the likes of Nerf Secrets Revealed, Gaming with Kaiju Force Neo, and if you want to count HJN, that could probably also be there, but the thing is, HJN doesn't have any of its own standalone series that are pretty much inspired by it. They're all a bunch of ideas that I plastered together, series in their own right, but they do in fact connect directly in line to the actual series. So the count in total for HJN is at least 1,500 by this point. And that's mostly because all these ideas and the like, hundreds of episodes worth of HJN material, have been based on certain subjects that have really been quite a nice creative way to keep series like this going on the channel or pretty much anywhere. Survival of No Limits, on the other hand, though, has not been easy to get back to. Because, first of all, the year 2021 was just terrible. I couldn't possibly imagine a time where I might get stuck in a certain part of my life, backed into a corner, no way out at any point, not even the ceiling or floor collapsing. Now, when discussing how I feel about it today, here in 2022, a much better time for me to be alive in, it's probably not going to be much easy here either, because we may be facing some issues. We may not be doing very well on most ends, but we're definitely having a much better time here than last year, any given moment. So, as I've said before, history probably could be something relative to survival, because after all, survival shows have gone, in a way, pretty far to showcase different historical events. Warfare, disasters, collapses in the government or economy. There's plenty of ideas I could possibly come up with in those fields, but maybe that would have to wait for another time because, as I've said, it wouldn't be easy coming up with new content, survival related, if at all I wanted to do another season of this series, or even just make an expansion to it. Regardless of what it is, hopefully I do have good ideas, and hopefully they stretch out to a point where I can be comfortable enough to be in such a good position to ever have these ideas be brought to fruition. But until then, let's just say, I might need some time away from this sort of stuff. But let's just say throughout a few more editions of the Vlog-A-Thon, I will have some more stuff related to this. Other series that I've started, new series or otherwise, will definitely be taught on a bit more later on here in the Vlog-A-Thon 5.0. So do be sure to check out other stuff on the channel, and also like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.